And hello, everybody. I'm Sherry Shriner. It's Monday night. If you have a question for the show tonight, you can send the email to SherryTalkRadio@yahoo.com. Tonight, I just want to talk about a few things. A lot of emails this week, but I'll get to those later. I wanted to go over something tonight, specifically the part about the song, and you can hear that part. It's in God Will I Trust. It's at SherryAudios.com. It's a part when I had my text, my articles translated into audio, so that people who have a hard time reading online, prefer to listen, can go to SherryAudios.com and just listen to a lot of my audios online. This is an article I wrote a couple years ago. And this is where they got it from. It says, "We are surrounded by those who want to destroy us. They want to destroy us because we have the love of the Lord in us, and those who are evil can't stand it. It reminds them of their future. It reminds them of their loss. It reminds them they can't win in the long run. It reminds them of their own failures and demise. Evil surrounds us. It is on every side. Big deal. It always has been, and it always will be until the Lord himself ends it. So the fact that it is always going to be around us for now and how it affects you is based on how you perceive it and how you deal with it yourself or allow the Lord to or refuse to at all. You know, aliens, demons, Lucifer, hybrids, and possessed people aren't going to go away. Should you be aware of them? Yes. Should they bother you? It shouldn't to the point where you can't live without focusing on them or glorifying them. Exposing them is one thing. Glorifying them is another. I've seen a lot of people that have gotten involved with this agenda. And they just spend all their time. Because, first of all, their love with the Lord isn't a perfect love, so they're in fear. And so what they end up doing is glorifying all this madness, all this garbage that surrounds us. And they become more like these beings that they're supposed to be exposing than they are of the Lord. It's almost like a flip 22. You have all these preachers online, these ministries online, and as much as they talk about Satan and how the Lord's going to be victorious and how you should live for the Lord, they teach nothing but apostasy. And so how can you learn how to build a relationship with the Most High if almost 98% of these people who are in positions of leadership are leading you down into apostasy? The Lord doesn't have his elect in the churches today. He has pulled them out. And if you've been sitting in these apostate churches and you've been feeling a nagging at your spirit to get out of them, then get out of them. I mean, you're not missing anything but apostasy and error. I was sitting in a church because I was going to a funeral. And, I wasn't even inside the church yet. And I'm just thinking, oh, do I really have to go in here? I don't want to go into this place. And the Lord simply said to my spirit, it's not my church, it's Satan's. And I knew that. I didn't even want to go in, but I went in, sat down, and sure enough, right above the pulpit's a big picture of Satan in the church. They call it a Michelangelo portrait of Jesus. And that's basically what it is, because Jesus is not his name. Jesus is not the name of the Son of God. The Son of God's name is Yahushua. And so I know a lot of people will go by the Talmud name and call him Yeshua. And like I've admonished people on the show before, Yeshua means a horse. So our Savior is not a horse. So his name is Yahushua. And some people just say, oh, it's all names, it's semantics. I've been calling Jesus for years, and he's answered me. Well, you know what? It is rude when you learn somebody's real name, because somebody has patience with you for years and years and years because you don't know their name and you're calling them by the wrong name. Once they tell you what their name is, don't you think it's rude to keep calling him by the wrong name? So his name is Yahushua. Call him by his name, Yahushua. There's one thing that the Lord always admonishes me about. He always says, stay focused on me. Keep your focus on me. Because it's easy to get lost in the mire of the enemy and what they're doing instead of what Yah can do is doing and how he is going to defeat them. He keeps me in check, he keeps me in balance, because there has to be a balance, especially when you're called into the areas that he has called many of us in to sound the alarms of what's coming. For some, their job is to sound the alarms about our enemies, And for others, it is to learn and be aware of what is around them. It's waking up out of the sleep and the apostasy the churches have put you in over the years. It's a process. For a while, you're going to start learning and being able to put pieces of the puzzle together, and you're going to get angry. You just go through, it's like a phase. It's like you're finally waking up, and you're learning everything you've been taught is wrong, and you just get angry. And I've been there before. I've felt that anger. And then you can just move on after that, after the initial shock, after the anger, after you've decided that you're going to throw everything at his feet, everything you've ever learned, everything you've ever been taught, and just say, I'm not going to believe anything right now, Lord. You teach me everything. You reteach me everything. And as he does that, and you start to learn what the truths are, it is quite amazing. It's a process. It's a shock to a lot of people. I mean, I don't think anybody that has gone on the path of truly seeking the Lord that hasn't been shocked and the things that he's shown them, because it shakes your beliefs. It doesn't shake your foundation in him. It just opens your eyes as to how evil and how much of a huge web this entire world is that the Illuminati has soaked us in. Everything in the world is just a big web. And so every person in it is like a pawn on the chessboard. I was shocked. It's kind of saddened to see Jerry Falwell died this week, because I used to know him. I used to work for him when I was at Liberty. And this is back before I even knew the New World Order existed. This is way back. I'm not going to reveal my age here. But I used to know Dr. Falwell, and he was a nice guy. And I sit here and I spent all week trying to think back, is there anything that he said or happened that I could have known even back then that he wasn't who he said he was? Because I know there's a lot of, the Lord always says, by your fruit you will know them, by their fruit you will know them. And so what was his fruit, And, I was there when the whole Jim Baker scandal and the PTL thing broke out. I'm trying to remember about the other times, the things that he did that broke out. Jerry was always the kind of guy that would say things to stick his foot in his mouth. And so I worked in the news team, his radio department, and the rule of thumb was we had to be the last ones to report anything that he did or said. And when we did, it was usually damage control. Other than that, we could report anything that we wanted to report with no problem. But when it came to the university or Dr. Falwell, we couldn't just report anything. There was kind of a bit of a censorship deal going on there. And I know he had taken money from the Moonies. People have tied him in to taking money from the Reverend Moon. And also some allegations that he was actually a Knight of Malta. And so I thought that was amazing. But, it gets you thinking, is there anybody in a position of leadership today that is one of his elect, one of his chosen, that has been stood up by him to speak through him and for him? And it gets frustrating when you just look around and you look at all the sharks behind the pulpits. I get blasted all the time. Oh, how can you say Joel Osteen is a wolf? How can you dare rail against Billy Graham? And and they go on and on with their favorite apostates. And you know what? It's just, if you can't see what Billy Graham is, you've got a ways to go in the learning process. Billy Graham, 33rd degree Mason. 56,000 Baptist ministers are Masons, avowed Masons. And in the very first step of Masonry, part of the oath that you take, which, by the way, the Bible forbids taking oaths. Nobody seems to notice that one. 56,000 pastors can't get by Matthew where it says not to take an oath. We're forbidden to take oaths, to swear by the earth or heaven or swear by anything. Okay, so they can't. There's a stumbling block on that one. But when you become a